love you, and I just want to say thank you for everything, and I think you're cool.
Hey Mom, I want to say thank you for being in my life, and I love you so much. Thank you so much for being my mom.
Happy Mother's Day, Mom. I love you very much, and thank you very much for everything that you've done for me. I am who I am because of you and what you've done for me.
Hey Mom, happy Mother's Day. I love you. You're the strongest person I know. You're my hero. Love you.
Mother's Day. Come on, give it up for all the ladies one more time. Happy Mother's Day to you. And I thought it was super cool. Like, we love, at Church on a Mission, honor is one of our biggest values here. And we just want to make sure that you're honored, you're appreciated, you're loved today. And I hope that you felt that way since you came through the door. And I think it's pretty cool because I was like, hey, it's Mother's Day. And it would be cool if I could get my wife up here and do a little tag team preaching. And so this is kind of something we're experimenting with, so you might have to give me some feedback after service to see how you like this. But we're going to go back and forth off of each other today. And we're going to basically, I'm going to read, if you got your Bibles, you can turn to Esther chapter 4. Esther chapter 4. I thought, hey, Mother's Day, let's talk about a lady in the Bible. A very awesome woman of God in the Bible. And we're going to continue. This is not a sermon series or anything like this. This is just a sermon me and my wife wrote together that I believe will help, will bless you. And it's something that God's been speaking on our hearts. And I think it'll help a lot of us in this place. And then don't forget, next week we're starting a brand new series, though. So you can start fresh being here next week for week 1 of Be Worship. We're going to be talking about worship and what it means to live a life of worship. I think that's going to be really cool. But Esther chapter 4 is where we're going to pick up today. And we're going to continue our time of worship. And let's just see what God has for us in this time. Esther chapter 4. So I'm going to give you some, in case you don't know, I'm going to give you some basically the history of what's happening before we get to Esther chapter 4. Because what's happening, we have a king, right? And this king has a queen. Her name's Queen Vashti. And Vashti is like, basically, the kings in the first chapter, you're going to see King summon Vashti to come see. He wanted to see her, like he wanted to show her off to his friends, basically. And she would come and like, hey, why don't you come so I can show you all my friends how lovely you look and stuff. Really, just looking at her body and stuff like that. And so Queen Vashti refuses. She says, I'm not doing that. I'm not being used like that. Good for you, girl. Right? Look at your neighbor. Say, good for you, girl. And so she doesn't do that, and the king gets really mad. He's like, man, she's not coming. I'm summoning her. I'm the king. You're supposed to listen to me. And so since he gets so mad, one of his servants says, well, why don't you just get a new queen? If she doesn't want to do what she needs to do, then why don't you just get a new queen? And the king's like, hey, that's a great idea. So they basically have like an American Idol without the singing, and they select all these women in the village, right? And they bring them through, and it's crazy, like a process that takes a year of figuring out who would be the queen. And I think it was like 12 different ladies that are all in this running. And there was this girl in that running that her name was Esther. And Esther was seen to have favor. She was seen to be beautiful. She was a very attractive person. And so after a year-long process, the king finally decided, well, Esther's going to be my queen. And so Esther's going to become that person, and you're going to see all that happen within these first 4 chapters. And then as Esther gets in there, the king, see, it's weird. This king, I feel like he's that king that, how can I explain him? You know, he's not very political or like making the calls. He's basically like the rich guy that wants to have a lot of fun and party and do whatever he wants, like, because he doesn't really make decisions or something like that. Because he had this basically attorney, this general come up. His name was Haman, right? And he comes up to the king and he's like, look, I want to destroy all the Jews. He just had a lot of issues with the Jews, and he's like, I want to kill them all. So we need to send a letter out and look, king, I will pay you this amount of money if you let me do this. And the king was like, you're going to pay me money? Let's do it. He signed off on it. And next thing you know, could you imagine being a Jew at this time? You get a letter at your front door that says in a few days you're about to be executed. Every single one of them. Every single Jew was going to be demolished. And the king was okay with it, and Haman was the person pushing it forward. Well, you see, Esther, she was a young girl. When she was growing up, her mom and dad had died. So she had an uncle named Mordecai who raised her. And Mordecai was a man of God, and he taught Esther in the ways of the Lord. Well, after the king and Haman makes this decree, Mordecai finds out that he's about to die. He's a Jew. Nobody knows Esther's a Jew as she's a queen, right? They don't know that she's a Jew. They just picked her. And so Mordecai, he's going to just start to lose his mind. He's like, this can't be happening. He wears sackcloth. I'll talk about that in a second, but he wears all the sackcloth and stuff, and he's grieving. He's in sorrow, and he's trying to get to Esther because he's like, we're about to all die, but Esther, she's queen now. Maybe she can do something about it. You know, that's what he's thinking. Maybe, just maybe, Esther can do something about it. And so he goes to the king's gate, but he's not allowed in there, right? And so this is where we're picking up in Esther chapter 4. You're going to see Mordecai and Esther have a conversation when Mordecai is trying to figure out how to save all of the people from destruction, all the Jews from destruction. So I'm going to read the verses, basically chapter 4 in its entirety, but it's going to really lay down the context for us so that we can know what we're talking about when we jump into these, the message today. Esther chapter 4, verse 1, it says, when Mordecai learned that all had been done, this is when he learned about the letter and that he was going to die. Mordecai tore his clothes and put on sackcloth and ashes and went out into his midst of the city, and he cried out with a loud and bitter cry. He went up to the entrance of the king's gate, for no one was allowed to enter the king's gate clothed in sackcloth. And in every province, wherever the king's command and his decree reached, there was great mourning among the Jews, with fasting and weeping and lamenting, and many of them lay in sackcloth and ashes. Maybe you're thinking, what is sackcloth? Well, when they were grieving back in the ancient times, this was something that was like a custom for them. When they wanted to grieve, they had to wear sackcloth. I don't know what it looks like. I should have looked it up and gave you a picture. I'm pretty sure it's probably weird looking, something we wouldn't wear today, right? But in verse 4, when it says, when Esther's young woman and her eunuchs came and told her the queen was deeply distressed, so now Esther's figured out everybody's about to die. She sent garments to clothe Mordecai so that he might take off his sackcloth, but he would not accept them. Then Esther called for Haggach, I hope I said that right, that's a weird word, one of the king's eunuchs who had been appointed to attend her, and ordered him to go to Mordecai to learn what this was and why it was. So you see, Mordecai wasn't allowed to go to Esther because she was in the king's gate. So they're going to have to play this game of sending a messenger, you know. So she's going to have to tell this guy, and he's going to have to go, and then he's going to have to run back, and then he's going to have to run back, right, as they have this conversation. That's where we're picking up right here. And then it says, Haggach went out to Mordecai in the open square of the city in front of the king's gate. And Mordecai told him all that had happened to him, and the exact sum of money that Haman had promised to pay into the king's treasury for the destruction of the Jews. Mordecai also gave him a copy of the written decree issued in Susa for their destruction, that he might show it to Esther and explain it to her and command her to go to the king to beg his favor and plead with him on behalf of her people. And Haggach went and told Esther what Mordecai had said. Then Esther spoke to Haggach and commanded him to go to Mordecai and say, all the king's servants and the people of the king's province know that if any man or woman goes to the king inside the inner court without being called, there is but one law, to be put to death, except the one whom the king holds out the golden scepter to, that he may live. But as for me, I have not been called to come in the king for these 30 days. See, Esther's starting to think that the king's losing favor in her. She hasn't been summoned to the king in 30 days. And if she goes to the king on her own, she could be put to death for that. The king has to request the queen. I know it's crazy customs, right? But she has to be requested by the king. If she goes in there by herself, she might die unless the king finds favor for her. So she has to tell Mordecai that. And then Mordecai said to Esther, do not think to yourself that in the king's palace you will escape any more than all the other Jews. For if you keep silent at this time, relief and deliverance will rise for the Jews from another place, but you and your father's house will perish. And who knows whether you may not have come to the kingdom for such a time as this. Man, we're going to zone in on that today. Then Esther told them to reply to Mordecai, go, gather all the Jews to be found in Susa, and hold a fast on my behalf. And do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my young woman will fast as you do. Then I'll go to the king. Though it is even against the law, I will go, and if I perish, I perish. Mordecai then went away and did everything that Esther had ordered him. Today I want to talk to you. We're going to talk to you from this title, if you're taking notes, which I hope that you are, The Right Place at the Right Time. The right place at the right time. You ever said that phrase before? Man, I was at the right place at the right time. Or maybe you said this phrase, I was at the wrong place at the wrong time. Like I was speeding in the wrong road at the wrong time because that cop was waiting for me and he got me. You know, I got to pay 200 and something bucks. Maybe you had a time like that. I remember one specific in my life when I was I think I was like 12 or 13 years old. My aunt and my uncle, they were holding a swimming pool party. Not a pool, what am I saying? A swimming pool training for little kids, right? They were teaching kids how to swim, and they would do it every summer. And so I would go over there because they were my aunt and uncle, like, hey, I'm going swimming, because every kid loves to swim when you're young, right? And so I'm going to swim, and I'm just hanging out, and I'm helping them out with, they had like 20 kids there, and then they were like, hey, it's time to get out, kids. So all the kids were getting out, and they were taking their floaties off, and I'm still kind of in the pool on the side, you know, putting my feet in the water, and I'm watching around, watching all the kids get out, and all of a sudden I see this one little girl slip out, and she's running around the edge of the pool, and she goes to the diving board. She's like 4 years old probably, and no floaties, and she just bails in. Brave little girl, right? So she bails in. I'm watching, you know, everybody over here, and I'm watching this little girl, and all of a sudden she's not coming up, and she's like, trying to get up. And I'm thinking in my head, I'm like 12 years old. Can she swim? She just bailed in here like nothing, you know, like I'm doing this. And so all of a sudden I noticed she wasn't coming up. So I jumped in and I grabbed her and I brought her to the side and she was like coughing up water. Like, thank God I was at the right place at the right time and I saved her life. It's crazy because I always wondered, I was like, did I really save her life? And it's interesting because my wife, she works about an hour away from here where she still cuts hair and stuff like that. And she has that young girl that I saved, you know, forever ago. And I was like, I wonder if she remembers that. And so Leah had her in her chair one day and I think asked her, and her name's Summer, and she actually does remember that moment in her life. She's like, yes, I'm so glad he came there because I didn't think I was going to make it. I thought that was pretty cool. I was at the right place at the right time. You want to know another time too? She doesn't know I'm about to tell you this. This is why it's fun to tag team preach. One day I'm at home, right? And Leah is cleaning and she's vacuuming, right? All of a sudden I hear her going, Ryan. She's like yelling at me. I'm like, what's going on? Guys, no lie. When I walk into the living room, she's like on the ground and the vacuum's over her head and it's like sucking her hair into the vacuum. I'm like, how did this just happen? And I'm like running over and I pull the cord out and she's just like, and you know it's got a roller in it. So her hair is like all rolled up in it. So I'm like helping her unroll. I'm like, how did you just end up underneath the vacuum? Like, she's like, I was trying to bend over and my hair just like went under and it caught me. And it was funny. It took us quite some time to pull that hair. Thank God she didn't have to cut none out, right? But that was, I was at the right place at the right time. You ever had a moment where you felt like you were in the right place at the right time? Or maybe you're in life right now and you feel like, man, I just feel like I'm in the wrong place right now. I'm in the wrong place at the wrong time. And you know, it's Mother's Day, and we decided to use Esther as a woman of God in this story. And you remember, and I wanted to talk about this subject today. And we're going to talk about the subject of calling. You know, because we just ended this series last week called This Is Me, where we took 5 weeks and we started learning about the best me. If you want to, I'm telling you that, I think that was one of the coolest sermons. Wouldn't you agree that was one of the coolest series we did over the course of our year and a half of being in existence? And if you didn't catch it, go back to the website. All of them are on there. You can watch them if you missed a week or so. But you can go on there and you can watch that. But it's been cool because we've been working on becoming the best me. And the last week, we started talking about calling, things that can stop you from reaching your calling. And today, when we read this story in Esther, I believe we're going to be able to see some things in this story that we can pull out that can help us with that subject of calling in your life, because that's a weird subject for some people. It's like, what is my purpose, you know? I don't know what my purpose is, or I really don't know what my calling is, and I don't even know if I feel like I'm at the right place right now. I feel like I'm in the wrong place and the wrong time. And you see here, Esther has reached a pivotal point in her life. I mean, she grew up. Who would ever know that this young girl who lost her parents, who is this Jew, would become a queen, right? And now she's a queen, and she's queen just for her looks, and she's just being a queen, and now she realizes all the Jews are being destroyed, and she has a decision to make. She has a decision to make in this moment. Would she step up and take action and help save all our people, believing that God with her, that possibly Esther's in the right place at the right time, or would she shy away from that? See, I believe there's a few things that we can we can pick from this story in Esther, and we're making it easy for you guys today. 3 simple points, so you can take notes and you can get it. We made it 3 simple points for you, and we're going to pull point number 1 straight from verse 14. Babe, take it. Verse 14, give us our first point today.
Esther 4:14 says, "And who knows whether you have not come to the kingdom for such a time as this." I'm going to ask for Tori to leave that scripture up because I really believe, church, that this is something that can really encourage us as individuals.
Yeah.
Because where you're at right now, where he has you in each of your moments, with where God has placed you at with your job, that is your kingdom, that is your place. And what I mean by that is God has entrusted us with a part of his kingdom. And what that means is, obviously, you know the scripture is if you confess with your mouth that Jesus is Lord, then you are saved, right? So when not only you are saved, you're filled with God's grace, his eternal love, that your sins are as cast away as far as from the east is from the west. But the most beautiful thing is God gives us a part of his kingdom to live inside of us.
Amen. Yeah.
And so with God living inside of us, church, that means that we are the calling. Look at it in Luke 17:20, verse 21. It says, "Now when he has asked by the Pharisees when the kingdom of God would come, he answered to them and said, the kingdom of God does not come with observation, nor they will say, see here or see there. For indeed, the kingdom of God is within you." So point number 1, which I hope that you're taking notes, is that the destination is not your calling, but you are the calling to that destination. The destination is not your calling. You guys are the calling to that destination. So I want us to look at that scripture again in Esther 4:14, and I want us to take out the word kingdom because at that time that was the place. And where we live at right now, we live in New Orleans, we live in Metairie, Kenner, Harahan. And I want you to replace kingdom and put the city that you live in, and I'm just going to demonstrate it with New Orleans. And just act like someone is speaking to you right now in this very moment. And who knows whether you have not come to New Orleans for such a time as this. Church, each and every one of you all are here for a purpose. You all are here for a plan for this city, wherever you're living at. God has brought you here on your journey for such a time as this. You have a purpose. Whether you moved back here, whether you've lived here your whole life, God has you here for such a time as this. Yeah. And I know at times people say, well, why does God say that God calls us to a place? I want us to look at Isaiah 49, verses 9 through 10. It says, "I took you from the ends of the earth, from the farthest corners I called you. I said, you are my servant. I have chosen you, and I have not rejected you. So do not fear, for I am with you. Do not be dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you and help you. I will uphold you with my righteous right hand." This shows that, church, that we are the calling. That we are the calling. Examples of that is Church on a Mission. If you all have not been here before, we've been a church for only 2 years. But a church just doesn't start by a place. It starts by someone that starts the church. A revival doesn't start unless somebody starts the revival. And right now, I'm only bringing up pastoral things, but I really wanted to bring up one certain subject because, of course, it's Mother's Day. But I don't know why, and I'm probably going to cry because I cry over everything. But for some reason, the Lord was really speaking to me about certain moms, and it's single moms. Maybe you have grown up and had a kid and you never got married and you had to raise your kid on your own. Maybe your father or the father of your child had passed away, and you have done everything that you possibly could, and you sometimes get in the mind of confusion of, God, why is this happening? Like, why is this all happening to me? And I want us to go back to sorry, Tori, you got to pull it up again, verse 4:14. And I want to say this, and I want to speak this over to the single moms in this place right now. And who knows whether you have not to become a single mom for such a time as this. You ladies are such an inspiration. You guys can reach so many moms that I could not reach because I'm not a mom yet. But God can use what you have and turn it into something absolutely beautiful. You have a calling on your life, ladies, Amen. To lead other moms, to not even just moms, but to inspire other families. You guys are such hardworking mothers for your kids, and I don't know why I felt like the Lord was speaking to me to kind of point out single moms this morning, and that's why I kind of cried a little bit during worship, but for some reason I just wanted to encourage the single moms in here this morning that you are so loved and you are so valued, and you do so much for your kids, and we are so thankful for you.
Definitely.
And I know at times that a lot of us, even single moms and married moms, that we all get left with confusion. And I started reading this book, and I highly encourage each and every one of you guys to read this. It's called Mind Monsters. It's by Kevin Gerald. An absolutely amazing book. And he goes in depth about, when we are confused, that is not of God. Our God is not the God of confusion, church. He is not the God of confusion. What the thoughts that you have in your heart right now of where you're at, that is not of God. Where he has you right now, you might not understand why, but let me tell you, he is molding you and shaping you into the person that you are going to become, to where when he directs you to that footstep, you will have favor upon your life, absolute favor. And I was like that too. When I was 17, some of you all know my story, some of you guys don't. When I was 17, I left all of my family and all of my friends. I'm originally from Kentucky, which Ryan says it all the time. And I had moved from Kentucky to go to Missouri to go to Bible college. And it was a very scary thing. But for some reason, I felt that the Lord was really speaking to me to do it. And it was very scary. But when I first got there, I kind of thought that I would be able to have kind of everything laid out, because I was used to having that, get to sing a lot and all that. But no, it showed us the back skirts of the meaning of serving and the meaning of giving and all of this stuff. And at that time, I started realizing, okay, God, actually, I know that you've not directed me here, but you got me here at this time because you are molding me and shaping me to the person that you want me to be, to where when I go to that destination of where you direct me, God can use me in that. If I did not understand the meaning of serving when I didn't go to Missouri, I don't think I would be as excited and as meaningful as if I go, because if you all were here back in January, we do burgers and blankets. And that's when we feed and pray over the homeless and give them blankets and give them burgers. And that's such an exciting thing. And I was never taught that in Kentucky. I never understood the true meaning of serving. So where you're at right now, church, God is molding you and shaping you into the person that you're called to be, to where there's going to be favor on you, to wherever God directs you to, there will be so much favor on your life. And so when we go back and we look into Esther's story, because our question is, when we get confused, well, how do we not get confused? It's simple. We lean on God's strength. If you look in the story of Esther, Esther leaned on God's strength. In the beginning of the chapter, she was chosen just because she was beautiful, kind of what Ryan was saying. It wasn't because she had all of these talents or, she had so much to offer for the kingdom. She was just beautiful, and she was a virgin. And, and plus his other wife didn't even really want to see him, so he just picked her because she was pretty and she was a virgin. And so with that, I'm sure Esther was probably like, okay, I don't really see the purpose of that. I don't really see why I'm doing this, but okay, let's just go for it. But yet, as you read on, as Ryan was reading, it starts to reveal of why God is going to use her because of what's going to happen to the Jews. And I know that we're going to go over a little bit into verse 16 when I come back up, but that she leans so much on God's strength that in verse 16 she says, if I die, I will die. Let's all pray and I will go to the king. When again, like what he said, back then it was against the law. You could die from that. I think that, church, shows so much trust in entrusting God with the kingdom that thrives in each and every one of us to create life change in our destinations.
I know, I believe that too, man. What's so cool about that is your calling, man. When I think about this moment and this calling and what she's bringing up, the cool part is the kingdom, right? That when you become a believer, now the kingdom of God is within you. It's within you. And wherever you are, let me tell you something. God has strategically placed you where you are right now in life to affect the people around you with the light of the gospel. Man, little kingdoms everywhere that can push God's kingdom even further. You are the calling. God may lay on our hearts to go somewhere. That might happen, but don't forget, so many people will be like, man, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do what God's called me to do till I get there, till I get to this spot. No, you're at the right place at the right time right now. God wants to use you. He wants to push his kingdom forward through you. So be used by the Lord. Your calling is right now. It's who you are. God's put a gifting inside of you. He's put you for a big purpose in your life. Whether you're a single mom, whether you're starting a new business, whether you're working at this place that you think might be a dead end, who knows where you're at, man. you're at the right place at the right time. Let God use you. Let your calling begin to come forth. The destination is not your calling. You are the calling to that destination. But I still look at this, and it's living out that calling. Man, living out callings, guys, it does something to you. It like stretches you, right? You ever felt stretched before? You ever felt like somebody, like metaphorically, right? Somebody's grabbing you on each end of your arms and just pulling you like you're about to get pulled apart and stressed. You're getting so stressed. Check this out. Like, see, you have verse 14. Pull verse 14 up, right? Where Mordecai, what Leah was talking about is, hey, Mordecai is trying to tell Esther, you're here for such a time as this. Right now. You might not think you're there for a reason, but God put you there for a reason. You're that calling there. You're going to be the answer that's going to save those things, okay? He's telling them that. So this is a lot to process for Esther, right? This is a lot because Esther's thinking in her head, if I go talk to the king, he could kill me. So 14, and then you have verse 15, right? Verse 15 is going to show Esther's response. But I guarantee the Bible doesn't say how much time passed from verse 14 to verse 15. But I guarantee you she didn't make that decision like that, like quickly. I can't snap, but like quickly, right? She didn't. There we go. On cue. She didn't make it quickly. I guarantee you that Esther sat there for a moment thinking about what she would have to do and what it could possibly cost her. And I guarantee you in that moment, Esther is feeling stretched. And she's feeling so stretched because she realized that she's about to have to take a risk. You ever felt like your calling was too much to handle? You ever felt like your calling or maybe your purpose was too much to handle, or you weren't good enough for your calling, or you weren't good enough to do what God wanted you to do, or those kind of things? You ever felt that way? Because many times we feel like we're stretched, and because this is what we do in our minds, right? The moment we feel stretched, we tie stretchiness with a negative connotation, and we think, oh, if I'm feeling stretched, then this must not be what God wants for me. Like, I shouldn't be feeling like this, right? I shouldn't be feeling like this at all. Me being stretched or having to take a risk, that's not God. God wouldn't want me to feel that way. But actually, it's the opposite. See, and that's point number 2 for you today. You see, feeling stretched is evidence that you're moving into the God's calling for your life. Feeling stretched is evidence that God is trying to push you forward. I'm gonna go in this deeper. I'm going to tell you, because Esther, I think she's feeling stretched at this time. And let me tell you something. Stretching is uncomfortable. You ever tried to do a split? Man, you want to see me try to do a split? Look, guys, I can't even touch my toes. Like, I've never been able to touch my toes, ever in my entire life. I have to always cheat and bend my knees and do that. I've never been able to do that. Because you know why? Because when I start stretching, it hurts right here. Like, my hamstrings start to get this, like, bump, like, called a Charlie horse. And it's really funny. My wife, she tells me I'm dramatic, but I'm not being dramatic. It really is painful. But, you see, stretching is so uncomfortable. And because it's uncomfortable, we give up on our calling. What we do is, many of us mistaken discomfort with this negative connotation. And so because we don't like discomfort, we get complacent. Right? We get complacent. And complacency in your life is where you'll start to get in trouble fulfilling your destiny. Because complacency, let's check this out. There's so much danger in complacency when you're pushing forward in your purpose. Because the devil, this is how it works. When you say yes to Jesus, when you ask him into your life and you start living for the Lord, guess what? The devil starts to have a mental breakdown. Because he realizes that he just lost your soul. That no matter what, because you gave your life to Jesus, no matter what he does, your name's been written in the Lamb's Book of Life, and there's nothing that can stop you from going there. You're going to heaven. And he hates it. He hates it. He starts having this mental breakdown. So he realizes, if I can't win his soul, then I just got to stop him from winning other people's souls for heaven. Let me just get him complacent. See, that's the devil's trap for Christians, I believe. Is to just get you complacent, where you're feeling comfortable, where maybe you just won't make a difference, because the moment you start feeling discomfort, you're like, maybe that's not God. But feeling stretched, man, it's evidence that you're moving into God's calling. You see, maybe there's a reason that you're in this place at this very moment, at the right place, at the right time, feeling stretched like you are. And this is why. You ever went to the gym? You know, I go to the gym all the time, and I'm ripped, you know, and I got this. I go to the gym all the time, you know, but no, I don't really. Let's just get out there. So if you go to the gym and you don't stretch, right? You don't stretch, and you just get up there, then I wouldn't be able to lift as much weight as I could, you know, because my muscles would be all tight, and I wouldn't be able to push out as much weight. I would just feel like all this stretch and soreness, and it wouldn't happen. Like, you know, I grew up playing basketball, and when I grew up playing basketball, I could just run out on the floor from pregame, you know, shooting around and playing around, and never had to stretch. You know, then I tried to play. You will play on Friday nights right now, and I try to play, and it's like the first shot I take, I'm like, oh, you know, what's happening to my life? You know, what's going on? You know, if you don't stretch. But I realized something. If I would go and stretch, you know, before I would go lift weights, I would be able to lift more weights. My capacity would increase because my muscles wouldn't be as tight, and I would be able to get full range of motion, and I'd be able to lift more. And it started making me think something. You see, stretching can be painful. It really can. When you feel stretching, can be painful. But this is the thing what God's doing. Every time he's stretching you, all he's doing is increasing your spiritual capacity for the next season in your life, because he knows the next battles that are coming for you. And if he can't get you stretched for the next season, you might not make it through. So he's got to stretch you so you can keep moving forward in your calling. Feeling stretched is evidence that you're moving into God's calling for your life. Maybe you're being stretched for such a time as this. Maybe you're being stretched for this moment. Maybe you're learning something new at your job that you never thought you were going to do, and you're like stressed out about it, but God's only stretching you because that's going to help enable you into the next season of life that he might have you. Maybe a job promotion, maybe another job in that field. Maybe you're like, I got another child coming, and I wasn't planning on having 3. I got 2 already. But hey, guess what? Maybe God's stretching you, and he's saying, you don't have 2 kids to raise up in my ways. Now you got 3. You have purpose. Raise them up in the ways of the Lord. Maybe you're like, I just got to live debt-free. I just got to live debt-free, and so I got to live this new lifestyle. And for some of you, stretching, it's going to be living a different lifestyle, not going out to eat all the time, not going shopping as a stressful release, right? That was our thing. You know, we both like to shop together, and we had to stop that. And eating out was our worst thing. We eat out all the time, and we just stopped that because we wanted to get debt-free. And it's a stretch. It's stretching us because I get home, and it's like 8 o'clock at night, and she's like, you're going to cook? And I'm like, maybe I really want to just go buy something, you know. But it stretches you. It's uncomfortable. But that's okay because God's stretching you and he's increasing your spiritual capacity so that you can reach more people and you can keep fulfilling the destiny that's inside of you, that he has for you. Maybe a stretch for you is putting down the alcohol, because every time you drink, it just stops you from taking that next step in your destiny, and stretching you is going to be able to find a different way to cope with your feelings rather than alcohol. And whatever it is, there's ways that you can be stretched. You see, Esther, I guarantee you that she's feeling stretched. She has to make this decision. Am I going to go to the king without being summoned? Because I can go there, and if I go there, man, he could kill me. He might kill me. But she realizes that if she stays complacent, all of her people are going to die, and evil is going to win. And it just made me think so much that I think some of us have been complacent in our spiritual walk, and we keep letting the devil win the souls of our friends, of our family, of our coworkers, and I think it's time for that to stop. I think it's time for us to rise up, to let our spiritual capacity increase, and start reaching the people in our area that God has strategically placed us at with the gospel, because it's time to see God's light shine in this city. Amen. You were called for such a time as this. You are feeling stretched. Enlarge your spiritual capacity. So the kingdom of God is within you. You're your kingdom. Feeling stretched is okay. And then Esther does something. You know, Esther does something that's super cool. And she takes a step in the right direction that I don't believe many of us do. I know there's been many times in my life, because I'm such a go-forward guy, the moment I want to do something, I do it, right? But Esther, the process that she takes into stepping into her calling it needs to be noted because it needs to happen this way. Come on, Leah, come read verse 16 for us and give us point number 3, because this is the best point of them all.
It says, assemble all the Jews in Susa. I don't know if that's the right word. I'm sorry if I totally don't say that word right. Fast for me. Do not eat or drink for all 3 entire days. My servants and I will also fast. After that, I will go to the king, even if it is against a royal decree. If I die, I die. Your last point this morning is let your calling be God-driven, not me-driven. Let your calling be God-driven and not me-driven. Church, I want to ask you a really important question this morning. I know a lot of us pray in here, but when was the last time that you've asked God to direct your footsteps? When was the last time that you've prayed and asked God, direct me to where you want me to go? Let's look at Proverbs 3, verse 5. It says, trust in the Lord with all of your heart and not lean on your own understanding. I brought up this verse this morning because I know that the word trust is kind of hard right now in our daily lives. To kind of speak for my husband and I, we've been backstabbed, we've been talked about, we've been hurt many times, and so my trust issues are not really that great. Let's just be real. We're very real pastors, so we like to be very open. But my thing that I've always took to heart is that I don't view how God sees me through people.
Yeah.
My God is, and all of his promises are evident in the Bible, that he says that he will never leave nor forsaken you, that he will always love you, he will always keep you, he will always provide for you. So I never really view like how people treat me as how God would treat me, because I don't view God through people. I view through what he says in the word. So trust in the Lord with all your might and not lean on your own understanding, because sometimes, and I speak for a woman, we kind of get in our emotions a little bit and we kind of lead astray because we want to be led by emotions and do exactly what we want to do right then, right now. And my husband can definitely speak for me right now for that.
Amen.
We definitely like to do that. And the second verse is Proverbs 16:9. It says, in their hearts, humans plan their courses, but the Lord establishes their steps. Church, Esther didn't just pray a prayer. She fasted and prayed to go deeper into the presence of God. And I kind of want to briefly just kind of go over the difference between of just regular prayer and just prayer and fasting. Prayer is what we all know, and it's just like your own language of how you speak to God. And one of our staff members, sometimes when he prays, he'll start off with saying, hey, God, there is no exact way for you to actually pray to God. You just pray to God in your own words. But fasting, prayer and fasting, one thing that I definitely want to highlight is just know that this is not a requirement or this is not a command that God asks to do. But it's a prayer and fasting that come together naturally as a purpose to take your eyes off of the things of this world, showing God that we want a deeper connection with him. So it helps us gain a new perspective, and it helps us renew a trust with God because, again, bringing up Proverbs 3:5, it says, trust in the Lord. Our faith grows with fasting.
Yeah.
And so when you read through this scripture, she does talk about how you don't, or, let's not eat or drink, but there's different ways that you can fast. And the reason why I'm highlighting right now fasting is because maybe some of you in here right now don't maybe understand the meaning of fasting or don't understand what the purpose is for it. But like I said, it brings you to a deeper connection. But there are different ways that you can fast. If you were here, I think it was about a year ago, we had preached about what the meaning of worship is. And with me, I fast music because, again, what you put in your heart, the mouth speaks. And so I listen to a lot of bad music, and let's just be honest. And, it honestly sends a lot of negativity into your life, and you just start speaking that negativity. So, and when we start fasting, it's really funny. When we start fasting here at the church, a lot of people are like, wow, Leah, you're completely different. Or some of my staff members will come up, man, you're just so positive. You're just so different. You have a different demeanor about yourself. Well, it's because I'm allowing to listen to what God has promised in me through songs and to encourage me to lift me. And so whatever's on your heart, church, right now, I guess what I would say to challenge you is if you're wanting to pray and fast and you really are considering doing it, do it where you ask yourself, okay, God, where are you going to direct your footsteps for me? Pray and fast that. Because God will take you into so much deeper intimacy with him that there will be so much favor that would be outpoured on your life. So with fasting comes trust and leaning on God's strength. So when you look back at verse 16, Tori, if you don't mind pulling that back up, she states, she doesn't say, well, if this all works out, maybe I won't die. She boldly states, If I die or I will perish, I will perish. That is so inspiring to me because she's trusting God and not leaning on her own understanding and not leaning on her own emotions and the reality of what could come of it, that she could die, church. She could die. But that shows that she was God-driven and not me-driven.
Amen, amen. And this is super cool, this point right here. As I wrap things up and we're going to kind of close this out, is, you know, it's that question. How many times have you taken, when you're taking a step forward in your calling, you ask God to go before you did it, you know? Because if you're like me, a lot of times I get told, I get something in my mind. You know this the best. It's like the moment I get something in my mind, I just want to do it. Especially with the church. When I got ideas for the church, I'm just like, bang, let's do it. You know, like I'm all over it. And I've noticed sometimes, and the best analogy that I love to use, if you've been here, you probably heard me say this before, is like, what if you feel in your heart that God wants you to start a fast food chain, right? He wants you to start a fast food chain. My favorite is the Big Mac at McDonald's, what's what, and I just love it. And maybe you're like, I need to start a fast food chain, and I know that's what God wants me to do. So you're like, I'm going to make a Burger King, and I'm going to put it over here at this spot. It's going to be awesome. And you run over there, and you start making this Burger King, and it's just not as successful as you thought. You're like, God, I thought you had favor on me. You wanted me to go this direction. I thought you wanted me to do that. And what if the Lord spoke to him and said, you know, what if the whole time I wanted you to do this, but I wanted you to build a McDonald's, not a Burger King? You know? It's because we get ahead of ourselves, we become me-driven instead of God-driven, and we let our calling be steered by us and not by God. And God, I'm telling you, he can take you further and in a better place than you could ever take yourself. You know, if you're trying to take yourself there, it's going to take you longer. You're going to have a lot more heartaches, and it's just not going to be as fun. But God, when you're trusting in him, and like Leah was saying, when you're leaning on his own understanding and not leaning on yours, man, God will begin to get you through even the toughest situations. When things are going in your life, you're like, I can keep moving forward because God is with me. And the encouragement for you today is whatever you are in your calling, or if you feel like you're about to take this risk, or you feel like you're about to take a step forward and you're feeling stretched, then let it be God-driven. And some of you may need to fast. You know, we're talking about that fasting. She gave up music. She gives up the secular music. When I fast, I usually give up a meal, maybe lunch or supper. And in that time, I pray. See, because I can tell you, fasting without prayer is just a diet. That's all it is. If you're going to fast, you got to take that time to pray, to ask God to go before you. And there's something special that happens when you fast. It's not a requirement. It's not a commandment. But what's cool about fasting is when you do that, it's like an earnest prayer that you're giving to God. And God sees that. He respects that. He honors it. And he puts his favor on it. And he'll go before you. Because you know what happens? Esther, she goes to the king. She goes to the king and she says, look, this is what happened. When the king sees her, he had a decision to make. And he took the golden scepter and he reached out to her, which was meaning he was giving her favor and honor. You know, how awesome was that? And then she saw, hey, Haman's about to destroy all the Jews. I'm a Jew, and you're about to destroy all my people. And the king changes his mind, and all the Jews are saved. Isn't that awesome? And I get it, guys. Maybe some of our callings aren't it seems like as significant as like, if I make this decision, I'm going to save the American in the United States of America, like every one of them from torture. But maybe, just maybe, the decision you make might save your family. Maybe, just maybe, the decision you make or the risk you make may save your child. Maybe it'll help you make an impact in your workplace that'll start to change the atmosphere. Maybe some of you go to work every day and you just hate the atmosphere. Well, guess what? Start being the positive atmosphere in there. Maybe that's your calling. You're at the right place at the right time. You start speaking positivity. What you give, it'll be received. Man, I think it's so cool. Remember, you are the calling, not the destination. You're the calling to that destination. Feeling stretched, it's okay. Feeling stretched is evidence that God is working in you and he's moving you forward. And guess what? The devil doesn't like you being stretched. So he's going to try to get you back complacent, back to where you were. He wants to trap you back in your corner. But don't let that happen. You say, you hand out, you start saying, God, stretch me, pull me. I'm ready to enlarge my spiritual capacity and let your calling be God-driven. If you're about to make a decision, if you're about to go forward or take a risk, man, let it be God-driven, not me-driven. When everybody's head bowed and eyes closed.